All right, Fabian, come on up to the front over here. For those who don't know, this very tall man played national handball for Germany. He's not here to talk about handball. He actually set up this thing, co-CEO and Chief Empowerment Officer of Kienbaum, which is a consulting and management company across 15 countries. So question for you to talk to our audience, or for audience to meet you. What is one lesson from the world of sport that you bring into your leadership training?
Well, obviously you need talent, but at the same time you need discipline. So you have the most gifted, like the Cristiano Ronaldos, but then also you have the hardworking people all around. And that forms a team, and at the end it's about team efforts. This leads to success.
That's a really short and powerful answer to that. I'm very excited. And also, this is a special panel, one, because it's super relevant to a lot of what is happening in this region, but also these are not just mere panelists, these are your co-authors. You guys put together a book and a report on generational responsibility, which is in German, so I haven't read it yet. But once this is English copy, I'd love to see it. So we're gonna have a conversation about that here on the stage. Do you feel ready? You happy?
Absolutely.
In that case, guys, can we give one final welcome to one final panel here to the co-authors and panelists with Fabian.
Hello. So hello again. Let's get started. I hope you still have as much energy as we have for this final panel. But before we kick this off, let's start with some stats. We may have come across this during the day, but just for you as a gentle reminder, in Germany there are approximately 3.6 million companies, of which 99% account for small, medium-sized, and 94% for family-owned businesses. And out of these 35 million employees in Germany, this group forms 20 million people. Within the next couple of years, 150,000 will pass on their businesses, a trend which is going to accelerate even going forward due to the fact that the baby boomer generation is retiring, so on and so forth. And of those, apparently 50% plan to pass on their business to the next generation within the family. So change of generations in German, Generationswechsel, obviously is something worth talking about with my beautiful guests here. But that's only one part of the coin. Because as Dan pointed out, we also want to talk about what comes along with it, and this is responsibility. And luckily enough, today we have a couple of successes with me here in this round. And also, as Dan pointed out, we happen to be co-authors of this book. But before we dig into this topic, please welcome our panelists. And Felix, I start with you. I hope you can hear us well. Felix, you are one of the representatives of the 5th generation of Fiege, and you're leading the business together with your cousin Jens. And Fiege Group is an international logistics company. A pity you can't be with us today, but you look quite well, and I hope you feel much better. Please say hello to Felix.
Hello, Fabian, and everybody. Thanks for having me. Really glad to at least be with you virtually. Really sorry that I cannot be there in person, but since yesterday I'm COVID positive, but I'm feeling fine. Yeah, so it's kind of strange, but I have to stay at home, and would have loved to be there in person, but it is.
Great, thank you, Felix. Bonita, you represent the 4th generation of Trigema, a clothing manufacturer from the southern part of Germany, which is not only well known for your products and the family, but also for the mascot, which some of you might know, a sweet little monkey. Raise your arm, who knows this monkey from Trigema? You see? Many people here, yeah. You have to reveal later on who is behind this sticking idea. I have a guess. Zoe, you're a 2nd generation family entrepreneur from Hamburg and active in the legal tech sphere. And when talking about responsibility, you hold the position that dealing with everything related to the digital transformation is the next generation's job. We're going to talk about this later on. So to start with an easy question, given the fact that we are all family businesses, Bonita, you said that as a kid, I think you live close by the factory and the home of Trigema, and did you ever consider taking a different career path, or was it clear that you will enter the company one day?
Yes, as you said correctly, we sort of live really close by to our company, and we're fourth generation family business, and my parents are both working in the business. We've always been really close with the business, so my brother and me, yes, when we were young, did play in the company, and for us it was always, we always said it was a big chance that if we were given this chance to join the family business, that we would take it, because there's, yes, we are in an industry that's very, well, not really common anymore in Germany to be manufacturing textiles in Germany, but we said that it's a big challenge, and if we can get that chance to be part of it and to sort of take it into the future, into the next generation, then we'll take it.
Do you have the feeling that as a family-owned company, because we touched upon this fact, there are various startups here, grown-ups, unicorns, unicorns, but also in their family, there comes even a special responsibility, or is it just something which has always been the self-understanding of the way you undertake the business?
No, I think the responsibility that we have as a family business, I mean, most of us, like our business, we are located in in the countryside. We have many employees there. There are many families dependent on businesses like us, and we say that, you know, if you choose to work for us, if you choose your occupation in the textile industry, then we need to offer you something that you'll have a future in. And for us, it's important to preserve that and to also to preserve these skills. And yes, there is of course the legacy you have with the family business, and but also sort of the close connectivity. And I think if you're part of a family business, you feel that.
Yeah, Felix. Talking about the countryside or rural areas, potentially Greven, I happen to be there, can also be considered sort of Hinterland of Münsterland. Your slogan of Fiege is that you said Fiege has to reinvent itself, like actually every generation. Now you're in the 5th generation. What is something you have started reinventing together with Jens when you took over, or actually gradually when you took over more responsibility over the years?
Yeah, I would say it's not a revolution, but it's more an evolution of different things that we are pursuing. And you're completely right. We are in the 5th generation now, and I think in every generation there's a few new mega trends which are popping up that you have to have answers for. And I believe that in our generation, or in our times now, it's of course a lot about digitization, where we have to move forward and try to be ahead of the wave. There's sustainability, which is of course a big topic. Luckily, I would say that as a family company, you have, or we and every family company has been very close to sustainability in general. Maybe not that professional and not that transparent, but it's something that has always been in our hearts, in our DNA. But it's a big topic, and a lot of our customers and partners rely on us that we provide them the right solution to become more sustainable in the end. So I believe these are the topics: sustainability, digitization, a lot about culture and leadership culture especially, that we are focusing on since quite some time now, because we believe, just like Bonita said, that as a family company, you have to feel it, and we want to make sure that this culture really is present in every side and in every part of our organization. And that's a topic that we spend a lot of time to bring this culture forward in our organization. So there's different things that we follow up on at this time. And probably a few more topics during our generation, as every generation has.
We will come back to this phenomenon, also actually your success formula with Fiege. So everything you do related to your own digital/cultural transformation. But first, Zoe, let me ask you. I elaborated on that during the introduction. You said that from your point of view, our main task actually is to shape this digital transformation. What do you mean by digital transformation? What comes along with it? What does it imply?
Definitely, thank you. I think besides all the things you guys already mentioned, I guess we are all very aware that digitization is not something we can evade. It's something that is essential if any family business in whichever industry wants to have a chance to survive, to be long-term competitive. And I think us as the next generation, however old we eventually even are, have a higher chance of shaping this transformation. And we are a software company, so I always love to say digital transformation is not about the tool or the technology. It's about reinventing your company, optimized in a digital world where your markets are digitally shaped, your customers have changing behaviors and expectations, and your entire company operations have to adapt to these external circumstances. And as a result, you might eventually end up employing a tool, but first of all, you have to assess what is the need, where to change. And the cultural transformation that you just mentioned, Felix, is essential in that, because it's a big mind shift going from this is how we have always done it, and my absolute favorite sentence, to this is how we should be doing it in the future to remain long-term competitive. And sometimes, especially if you want to become more agile and use all the other buzzwords that are relevant in this context, you have to have a significant mindset change and also completely rethink the ways you do business and how you do certain things within your business. Also essential are your products. Not all long-term products have long-term viability, and especially in the software industry, I can tell you, it's so fast-paced. If you think you can rely on your past success and say, look, we've been great until now, it's not an indication for success in the future. So you have to be open to change and actually see it as an opportunity and not as a threat, but taking the entire company and the culture and all the long-term employees on board and convincing them also on the urgency to change. I think that is our responsibility as the next generation.
As we want to take home value later on, you have to reveal what you're actually doing. So we need some practical advice from you. But prior to that, Bonita, I have a question. I read that your father, who might be behind, you have to reveal that too, is behind this idea of this famous monkey, admitted that he is rather skeptical about change and transformation. I'm not sure whether this is true or not. How do you deal with this moving forward? I mean, how does it work also on a day-to-day basis?
Well, yes, I mean, I think, especially working with different generations in the same company, you always have obstacles because, generations have done it a certain way, but every generation had their new ideas. And for us, yes, my father is skeptical on certain IT things, but he knows we need to adapt, and he's very upfront for it. We invest a lot in our digital business. So I'm head of our e-commerce business, and that has sort of also been very important, of course, during the pandemic. And we can see that we always need to transform. And for us, we always say, okay, yes, like 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, my great-grandfather started the company manufacturing male underwear. Now we manufacture everything from t-shirts to sweatshirts to everything, even a biodegradable collection. So, we always need to transform, and in order to stay in the business, you need to transform. And I think that's what makes family businesses so interesting, that you always, every generation gives their new input. And digitization is also big for us because in production, for us, it's very difficult to find skilled labor, and therefore automation is a big topic, whereas since we're competing with low-cost labor in Asia, where it's not very feasible to invest a lot in technology or in automation, for us it's an important factor, so therefore we need to do the development in that area, and we cannot rely on the rest of the industry. And that's interesting, and digitization in general is not therefore very common in the in the textile production. And it's interesting, so we need to always look at different industries, see what they're doing, and sort of adopt it for the textile industry. And yeah, so it's never boring, it's always exciting to try and move the company forward and to try and sustain it.
So in order to overcome this potential skepticism, you can argue like with, well, rational business arguments that at the end of the day, it's also then in terms of the innovation or the degree of innovation you have to show in order to be competitive as a company. Felix, coming back to you, potentially you could elaborate on a couple of examples, because as Fiege, maybe not all of you know here, I mean, you're really ahead of the curve in terms of collaboration, co-creation. Also, you're a member of Maschinenraum in Berlin. So you're actually everywhere whenever it comes to like new approaches of developing a joint or new ideas, investing. Fiege is the place to be. And one example is the pilot project with Shop Daheim. And then also a couple of weeks ago, you invested in the AI startup Freshflow, an AI-powered platform that helps grocery retailers tackle stockouts and food waste. So potentially you could shed some light on that. So you are everywhere. I mean, how do you do that? And who is in charge?
No, not everywhere, but it's true, we do see a lot of potential in venturing, investing into startups, cooperating with startups, having pilot projects, supporting them, investing into startups, but also trying to build or to help build startups from scratch, so to say. Our company build team that we have but this is the team in the Maschinenraum in Berlin, by the way. The Express Ventures, which is who are doing company building at a very early stage. So we do see a lot of potential. There is a lot of need for this in the logistics industry, I believe, because compared to other industries, I think I can say that there's room for improvement in logistics, in terms of new business models, digitization, marketplaces, globalization, etc. Automation, absolutely right, also in logistics. So, and we believe that the best way to tackle this and to move forward is to find the right partner and to collaborate and move forward jointly. And because you have to be realistic, in logistics, very often there's platform business models, and these like winner takes it all business models, and it wouldn't be realistic if we said, okay, this is something that we can do on our own, and this is a battle that we can on our own. In the end, we just want to have the best offering for our customers, and if we can achieve that by partnering up or investing into the leading platform, and then we support them, of course, from the very beginning, that makes a lot more sense than to, let's say, start a platform of our own and then compete with the big venture capital finance competitors. They wouldn't be realistic. So we try to be smart, and we try to find the right partner for every challenge there is going forward. And we believe this is, at least for us, the right way. And so far, we are quite happy with that. And plus, it's a lot of fun. If you have the chance to work together with these startups and to be part of the team, so to say, it's fun. And a nice side effect is that these, let's say, the culture in these startups, the creativity, the dynamics, this is something that somehow finds its way into our core organization as well. Our logistics teams, the operations, they are involved as well, and they get a lot of insights and impulses from startups as well, and so that helps also.
Do you remember when you started investing? I mean, what were the reactions like? And also, like players today, we heard about Zenda, or also Ferry Heilemann talked about his old company, Photo. So what did it mean to you, and how did you feel about it? And the second question, which is related to that, is when you had the feeling, potentially also as a younger generation, there's a trend arising, we need to change too, or we need to open up actually, we need to be part of an ecosystem which was potentially new for your father or your uncle. How did you convince the rest of the family, but then again also like your executives? How did you manage to do so?
Yeah, I think the good question. I think that was probably one of the biggest challenges in the beginning, to convince, especially your own team, your own organization, that investing into startups is not something crazy. That's more like a hobby, but it's something which really makes sense. This took some time, but this is also something that we realized from the very beginning is necessary, because we didn't just want to spend money on startups and invest into startups, because we promised them that we support them in operations, in whatever ways possible, infrastructure, network. And this is only possible if we have the team behind us believing in those startups as well. So this is something that we took very seriously, and it helped us to get into those startups and into this ecosystem from the very beginning, because just money is not enough, because until today, I don't know going forward, but until today there wasn't enough money in the market for good startups. So we had to offer something else. And what in the very beginning, of course, a lot of people were skeptical also within our organization. So what helped a lot was when the first exit came along. And this is also something that is kind of strange as a family company, that you have to accept that these startups are in most cases built to exit sooner or later. And as a family company, you have to go along, and you have to support the exit sooner or later, and this is new to some family companies, I believe. But this is in terms of, okay, this makes sense. It's not crazy, because in the end you also earn money with it, or you can earn money with it. It was an important step to see the first exit.
Okay. So we also wanted to talk and dig a bit deeper into the field of responsibility. You took over responsibility from your father, who unfortunately fell ill, seriously ill, at the age of 23. So you were rather young, whatever that means. And back then you mentioned that it was not your career goal, but still you had that feeling that you want to take on responsibility. Could you elaborate a bit on that? How did it feel back then, and how has it developed over the years?
Definitely, thank you. Yeah, I was 23. I was totally gonna go into tech and work for either one of the big players or stay in VC. I worked at a VC in Berlin before. I loved it. I thought it was super cool. Definitely what I wanted to do. My father fell ill, very short, like surprisingly. And in that moment, it was clear, immediately, that of course I would step in. At that time, I didn't know for how long. I thought it would be 2 weeks. It turned out to be more than 5 years, and I'm very happy about it. In the beginning it was an entire move and decision completely based on a feeling of responsibility for the family business, for the family, for the employees, for the customers. So I'm the second generation in this family business, but I grew up also with another family business, and these values just have been with us in the family always, that when it matters, you're there, and you don't just say, oh no, sorry, I had different plans. So for me, it was clear, and I've never regretted this decision ever since. It was not always easy, especially since with 23, leading a company, my experience was not that big, but I think one of the things that really helped me was to be very humble and to be like, look, I haven't done this before, clearly, but I know the company since I'm small. I've worked in the company, that was helpful. And together with all the employees who have been there for a long time, together we managed the situation really well. I got to learn everything, they taught me everything, but I also brought in a lot of new things. So I think that combination was also important. And over time, it evolved from being a situation where I took over responsibility for the responsibility. It turned into, I'm loving it, this is my company, I'm the second generation, wow, we have so much to do, and I'm enjoying it so much every day. It's not always easy, clearly, but if you approach it in a very open way and say, look, these are all things I have no idea about, but I'm open to learn, or to bring experts to the table and coaches and work on my topics that I'm not that strong at yet, I think you have a good chance in succeeding well, because also all the employees realize, she doesn't pretend to know everything on day one. How can I? And have learned a lot. I'm still learning a lot every day. But I think it's also important as the next generation, especially since I didn't have a period of overlap with my father. It enabled me a clean slate, a clean start. I didn't have the overlap. But it also allows fresh and new ideas to be implemented a lot faster, I think, because I'm the only decision maker who decides if it happens or not. And that enables a lot of speed. And in the software industry, that is very advantageous. At the same time, you obviously take decisions carefully and consider them properly, but it helps you to really push for the change when you realize what is necessary to change. And that is not always easy because not everyone in the company is convinced, especially since you're so young. And how can you know? We've been here so much longer than you. But they've realized over time that the combination of both worlds, the new world, the new people with the digital mindset, or like the new agile mindset, and the experience in combination, so the tradition and the innovation together, is actually a really, really good recipe, because you combine both strengths. And yeah, so out of a situation of where I stepped in out of responsibility, now it's my passion. And yeah, we have a lot of things planned, and I can just encourage anyone who has the opportunity to step into a family business or into any kind of business, even in a role of responsibility that you might not feel you match yet, especially for women, I can say that. It's always a great opportunity, and you learn so much, which if you take the more cautious path, probably you wouldn't learn as fast. And you also fail, and that's totally okay. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've learned a lot from them. And I think that's the important part, that you don't expect to be amazing on day one, but you slowly get closer to it, step by step.
So we learned that there are different success formulas, I want to put it that way. And Felix, I have another question for you, because the innovation very often lies within the companies, but there are certain obstacles, hierarchies, silos, whatever. And one way you approached that phenomenon is that you initiated the so-called innovation challenge. How did FIGE employees take on this challenge? So basically the idea is that, but please elaborate on that, employees in collaboration with students can work on new ideas. Have you yet had like the golden idea?
So first question, they love it. That's the good thing, and anybody can submit an idea. It's mostly teams, yeah. Sometimes it's a single person, but it's mostly teams. They love it, and they can do it on their own, or they can team up with students or some external people. But we are changing. We have this since a couple of years. We are very happy with this format to engage, to motivate everybody within the organization to think a bit further, and to ask the right question and to think about how to improve things or to invent new things. So this is quite well for us. We are changing the name now, starting this year, into Founders Challenge. And we are splitting it a bit, because a lot of ideas are more focused on, let's say, internal innovations, improving the way that we work, but it's not automatically a new business model that's coming out of this. And the second part is more like a new business model that is being invented or proposed, and these business models sometimes have the potential to be, let's say, externally founded and brought onto the market, this is of course one of the goals that we've pursued with the Founders Challenge now. But in general, it's cool format, and it's many people within the organization know it, and the final pitch, we try to make it a bit like Löwen style, and people like it. It's a lot of fun. And we do have some very good ideas that came out of it that made it onto the market. Yeah, it's not yet unicorns, maybe unicorns, I don't know. But some of them work out quite well.
Yeah, great. Bonita, I want to come back to you and also talking about responsibility. You mentioned that like family home, was close to the business as well. Also, your father still today is operating as, don't know the English term, but in German it's like eingetragener Kaufmann. So this is really like he's taking the responsibility on his own shoulders, like literally speaking. And when you anticipate and looking into the future, what would you say, also given the industry you're in, what are like the biggest challenges you foresee going forward, and what comes to your mind when you think about responsibilities these days, but then potentially also compared to when you first entered the company? Has it evolved over the years?
Yes, the sort of the level of responsibility that I have evolved over the years. Also the way you feel. I mean, it also depends. I mean, the past few years have been like an up and down, you know, for all of us with the Corona pandemic and everything. I mean, I remember 2020. From one day to the next, we lost more than 50% of our business, well, of our sales, because we have a lot of stationary shops. So we were there, stuck there, and we knew we have 1,200 employees, and you know we need to sort of we said we're going to keep all of them in work. So we had to sort of be fast, we had to be quick, and that's also sort of like, you know, we have small hierarchies, and when we decided, okay, we're going to produce masks, and we made 2.5 million masks. Within 48 hours, all of our production sites were changed to manufacturing masks, and we were all there in it together, and we knew, okay, we need to sort of tackle this. It was new, and we constantly, since then, we always know we have to adapt fast. Currently, we have big issues with the energy costs, since we're in industry that relies heavily on gas. So we always have to be innovative. We need to think quick. We need to think, okay, how can we do this? How can we I don't know, reschedule employees, how can we change products? And I think that's what's really changed, but that's what really, there's a lot of responsibility in having a long heritage, many employees, being in a business where you can't really say, okay, you know, what is our competitor doing, because they're not really there. So you always have to innovate and see how you're moving on. And I think also when you're longer in the family business, you realize the responsibility you have. I mean, there's also responsibility towards the customer, and you have to thinking about sustainability again, not only being sustainable sort of as a business, but thinking about the products you make and the impact they have. I mean, there's lots of ways to think about the kind of responsibility you have when you're entering a business.
Yeah, talking about moving on and also like practical advice, you said that you had overcome some obstacles, although you're like a tech organization, but still somehow, what kind of obstacles did you have to overcome? And how did you manage to do so? Like taking people along the journey?
Yeah.
That's always...
Well, in irony, just because you're a software company doesn't mean you're totally like 100% digital, automated, and like super agile. I wish. If you've been in business for 36 years, you have certain legacy, not only technology, but legacy processes, legacy mindsets, and especially in the software industry, it's so important to stay up to date, to stay state of the art, not just as your product, but in the way you work, in the way you think, in the way you operate, because the customers expect it. They expect it because in their private life, they have a smartphone, which is super easy to use. And so on the product side, of course, you need to match that. But I find, and that is applicable to all other family businesses, I would say, you have to be operationally excellent. And that means nowadays to be data-driven, to optimize all your processes in a data-driven way, which doesn't mean, let's digitalize a great, horrible process and just make it digital. You have to completely rethink the way you work and how the processes work together, how everything is interconnected, how the data flows stream in the most optimized way so that you can then deliver the best service for your customers without any like hiccups, interruptions, data silos and everything. And only then you can start about thinking, how could we employ AI and the automation and everything in those processes. But if you don't have the proper foundation in terms of digital or data-drivenness processes and workflows, I think that's very difficult. And that, in my opinion, is a big challenge for family businesses or any type of business that has been around for a long time, because it has always been done in a certain way and it has always worked. And well, what's your problem? We're still very successful. There's no need to change. And that is exactly the moment when it's time to change and actually already late. Because once it starts declining and it's not going so well anymore, then it's definitely too late. So in any case, it's always an opportunity to completely rethink everything. But that usually doesn't only cause euphoria, especially with long-term employees. They're skeptical, maybe also a bit afraid of the change. Transparency that is caused through data makes you comparable, and you know, it's difficult, and it's a cultural change, and you have to take everyone along and explain why for the company as a whole it is important, and why it's important for them individually. What the purpose of these initiatives are for them individually, and what the implications are if you don't do them. Because then there is no security of employment anymore, because the company might not exist anymore. So I think it's a lot about communication, explaining why you do things, but also showing that it's very urgent, because if you don't do it, there's nothing to discuss in the end anymore. And I think a vital, let's say, suggestion I may provide is to really hire fresh minds with a very digital mindset, and that can be old and young, with experience, without experience, to just mix it up, so that these fears of dealing with these new things and new tools in the end, which you then implement, reduces, because the others can show, look, it's super easy, and you know, it makes your life so much easier. You always have to put the benefit for the individual in the center. Obviously, the customer in the end is the overall importance, but in the change, everyone usually thinks a lot about themselves and has their own, you know, topics. And if you try to reduce these walls of resistance and first, you know, skepticism, it's much easier. And if you take them on board and explain why it has a significance for everyone and for the customer in the end, then it gets easier. Not easy, but easier. And it's a process, and it's iterative. You start, you adapt, and then eventually you get closer.
Okay, yeah, so Gabor Steingart always ends with dem ist nichts hinzuzufügen, so there's nothing to add. Thanks a lot, my dear co-authors. Felix, get well very soon, and all the best to you, and thanks for your attention.
Thank you.